What does our relationship look like with China as we kick off 2024? Should we look at them as a trade partner or predator? Here's Rick Smith and his guest with more on that.
Following some of the news coming back online after vacation, my inbox full of stories about China. Manufacturing's doing great. Manufacturing's doing horribly. Output is up. Output is down. Don't really know who to believe, honestly. This is one of those moments where you go, exactly what are we supposed to believe? Who are we supposed to believe? Because the headlines, they tell some very bizarre stories. And just story after story, up and down. It's up, it's down. This is something I think we're going to be focusing on this entire election cycle. Manufacturing policy is going to be at the heart, center stage. And here to share some thoughts on where we're going to go and where this is going to take us, our resident manufacturing guru / expert, Scott Paul. Scott is the president of the Alliance for American Manufacturing, AmericanManufacturing.org, their website. Scott, thanks for taking time for us.
Hey, Rick. Happy New Year. It's great to be with you.
I appreciate you taking time for us. Hope you had a wonderful holiday. We did in the Smith family. Hope you and the Scott family did as well.
Yeah, I tell you what, we kept it in America, but about as far away as you can get in Hawaii. It's as I told you, it's hard to screw up a vacation there. So I felt very blessed, very fortunate, rested, recharged, ready to rock and roll in 2024.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. But this is going to be something I'm sure you and I are going to talk about from now till election day. Manufacturing policy. The winners, the losers. Are we on the right path? Are we on the wrong path? I know the Biden administration, they're going to make a huge push at saying, look, this is why you reelect us. We're bringing manufacturing back. We're going to make America great by making things in America. That's going to be their pitch. But what do you make of these stories coming out of China, especially with the most recent admission by Xi Jinping acknowledging that the country's having a tough year. They're having a tough year with people struggling to find jobs, meet their basic needs. This is housing. This is a huge admission by the president in China. What do you make of this?
Yeah, that is a pretty big admission by Xi, because they want to generally present happy news to the populace and to the world. But I would say that this is not surprising in that a lot of China's growth and a lot of the stability that Xi has sought to bring out, and obviously there's violent aspects to that too, but the nonviolent aspects are the product of, I think, what we would call like financial instruments or things that we would consider to be problematic. Like a real estate bubble, for instance, or building a lot of housing or other developments that will never be occupied because they need to keep the construction industry busy. I mean, that's one example, and the list goes on and on. But with respect to factories, and I think this is a big deal, Rick, is that you've seen a couple of things happen over the last year. Chinese exports to the United States are definitely down. And so there's some impact there. There is a generally slower growth in China than there had been. And so there's some weakness there. And then, in a lot of ways, the Chinese Communist Party has run out of its first bag of tricks on how to prop up the economy with the real estate bubble and the financial sector and what have you. And so there is this acknowledgement that there could be some rough seas. Now, what I'm looking out for, and I will say this, and it's first worth pointing out that even despite all of that, China is still the world's largest manufacturer by far. And so whatever happens there has a big impact on the rest of the world, and especially the United States, because we consume a whole lot of stuff here. And what has traditionally happened if there's some weakness in China is that the Chinese Communist Party will seek to export its problems. And so they'll keep the manufacturing going, they'll keep the factories going, maybe not as fast as they had, but they'll keep them going. And instead of selling the stuff locally, they'll dump it on the global market wherever it's able to go. And that has devastated the United States in the past. That exacerbated the Great Recession that we had. We also saw a lot of that at the beginning of the pandemic. And so, we can't let that happen. And the good news is that we do have some tools in place now, some tariffs and what have you, that will make it a little more difficult to do that. But you were right to have your eye on what's happening in China and what Xi Jinping and the Chinese Communist Party does with the economy there. And also, I'll just throw one other thing into the mix. What's going to happen with respect to their reaction to the upcoming election in Taiwan, where there is definitely one candidate that is more about an independent Taiwan and another one who wants a little closer relationships with Beijing. And so there'll be a lot going on there. And as you rightly point out, this will have a big impact on what Biden is going to be telling voters about his changes and transformation to the economy to make it better, more sustainable, more resilient, with better jobs. And so all of this is swirling around right now.
I was just reading through some of their literature a little bit ago, and they pointed out in their literature that in 2023's third quarter, real inflation adjusted private manufacturing construction investment reached the highest level on record since 1958. Clearly, they're going to say this was because of our policies. This is because of the Inflation Reduction Act, the investments we're making in infrastructure and all of that stuff. And quite frankly, it is because of that. Also because, we've said, look, we've got to get some manufacturing back. We can no longer be the consuming economy. We've got to make stuff.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It is that combination. It is the combination of the policies and the public investments that are being made. And it is like basically having, three highly effective pharmaceuticals running through the manufacturing economy at the same time. The infrastructure law, the CHIPS Act for semiconductors, and also the clean energy manufacturing. So you have all of that pushing investment. At the same time, you have some, not all, but some corporate boards saying for the first time that they care as much about resilient supply chains as they do about finding the lowest cost. Now, there's still going to be that seeking the lowest cost there, but they at least want to hedge their bets.
Right. No, but here's the thing. Have we not heard that before? I seem to remember, and I still remember the date. I think it was August 19th, 2019. The Business Roundtable came out with their edict that they learned. They've now learned. It's no longer about only shareholder value. It's about, how did that go again? It's about customers. It's about communities. It's about workers. Yeah, it's about workers. And then they had the pandemic to prove, what they were saying. And they went back to what they really believe. So I got to tell you, not buying that until I see it.
I totally agree with you that is a PR and marketing effort. I do think that a management best practice now for people that care about supply chains and being able to have reliability and quality and all of that, that some companies are making those investments in the United States again. I mean, there was one story that appeared over the holidays about, and this is remarkable, like an electronics manufacturer that makes some components for Apple and other companies that's going to move a massive amount of production out of China and India and into the United States because they can control the quality, they can control the materials, they don't have to worry about the shipping. as much. And right now, this is an anecdote, right? This is an outlier, but I do hope that it becomes much more of a trend as we look.
Yeah, and they can also control their intellectual property. I mean,
That's
do
right.
you remember that? Remember for a bunch of years, corporate America was crying about theft of intellectual property rights, and when I was telling you, and you were saying the same thing. There is a country that will protect your intellectual property, right here. You make
Yeah.
it here, you do it here, you're going to be okay. You go over there and you give them your secrets, you give them your technology. Don't be surprised when they steal it.
Yeah, not only that, and this is, boy, I'm going to get on my soapbox now, but it's like these companies, it's like in the United States, they expect intellectual property protection. They expect the rule of law. They expect an educational system that's going to churn out great graduates for them. They expect a training system. They expect a high quality infrastructure. They expect stability, political stability, and economic stability and certainty because of the Federal Reserve and other things in the United States. They expect all of us, but they have no loyalty back to the United States.
Yep.
When it comes, where do they put their jobs? And they make all of these demands of the government when they themselves are not willing to necessarily practice what they preach. Some of them do. Look, some of them do, but most of them do not. And so, but I do think that the reality of the pandemic, the instability in China, the clarity that China is a competitor and not a collaborator, is causing some thinking. And so, if you were to go to McKinsey or Bain or any of these other management consultancies now, they actually would say, well, you know what? There's probably a way we could make this work in the United States or close by, right? When before they would have said you got to go to China, and so. It's a little bit of a change. We got a long way to go, but the public investment's driving a big piece of this and making sure, this is the thing, making sure that it's durable. The clean energy manufacturing incentives are durable. The semiconductor manufacturing incentives are durable, are going to be very important because these are long-term investments that have to be made in the United States. And also that we're creating quality jobs.
Yeah, and this is why elections have consequences, because all of this stuff, and this is what I keep telling people, all of this stuff that Biden's done, all of these investments, all of this future thinking investments that are being made could all be undone with one presidential election. And I think that has to come out because, look, if you want to have a manufacturing base, if you want to have that supply chain that is resilient and is domestic, the other guy talked about it a lot, didn't do much about it. This guy's not talking about it very much, but actually he's doing it. And I think that's the important part, getting some stuff done.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You can't do this. And there is a perfect recipe to create good manufacturing jobs in the United States. Part of it involves an aggressive trade policy. Part of it involves that public investment, that industrial policy. Part of that involves making corporations accountable to have quality jobs that pay better wages. Okay. So, Trump did one out of those three, but that's not enough. That's not necessary or sufficient. You got to do all three. And if you say my policy is a 10% across the board tariff, but I'm going to get rid of all this other stuff, that is not going to be helpful.
Yep.
Not going to be helpful in any way.
So last line of questioning I've got for you on this, and this is kind of a loaded question because I'm looking at what Xi Jinping is saying, that the people in his country can't meet their basic needs, their housing, the jobs. Does this become a trade war in these next several months? And does this have to be a I win, you lose scenario? Or do we see chaos in the coming months to the election? I'm curious if you look into your crystal ball, what do you see?
Yeah. Man, it is so hard to predict China other than the CCP will always act in the interest of self-preservation. That's the only standard. And what I think I have a concern about is that, again, I think that their bag of tricks, financial bubbles, housing bubbles, those are kind of gone now. And so, how do they navigate through this? Is going to be really, really challenging for the party to maintain that sense of stability.